Welcome to Let's Code Games. Today we want to continue where we left off with the Zelda series 3 years ago. I actually haven't looked at the code or what we did at all, so this is going to be another special episode where we basically look at what happened previously and then start to think about what we want to do next. So let's just look at what the current state of the game was. We start off in this area where there's a sword in the center. We can walk around with WASD. Now there we can read signs. We have an interaction system with, for example, with the sign over here. So if we press E, then a text pop-up comes up with the text that we want. And again with E we can pick up the sword as well. As you can see here, when we run into stuff, character is kind of pushing against it a little bit. So pressing E to pick up the sword, we have this pickup animation that's known from Zelda, and now with spacebar we can actually use the sword and destroy the bushes over here. Again with E we can interact with the chest. We pick up a shield, and you see in the top left here, next to our health bar, a shield bar popped up. And then as far as I remember, yes, so with some enemies, so the shield basically takes half of the damage as far as I remember. So if we just run into one of the enemies, you see we receive 20 damage and 10 damage went to the shield and 10 damage went to health. So that's how we implemented armor. Okay, so we can kill this. We have some nice kill animations. There are pickups here, so the rupees being dropped by the bats, and yeah, some randomly some bushes will also drop some rupees we can pick up, and then we have a counter in the top right corner here. There's another sign. Doing pretty great actually. And also, as you can see here, we have this setup. Well, right now it's set to free aspect. Let's go to 16:9, so it's represented on how the final game would look in terms of aspect ratio. And you can see that we can switch scenes, so there are multiple ones, and also the scenes are being loaded dynamically and randomly. So if we go over to this scene view here, you can actually see, so this is where we are at the moment. Let me game mode down here so we can look at this and walk around at the same time, and you see the levels are being loaded dynamically. So if I go up here to this level, then a new level section is being loaded. So basically every time I enter a level, the top, left, right and bottom level relative to that are being randomly generated. So let's go up here, and then we have basically a bunch of them. Oh, there one more thing that we implemented. If we go to the right here, let me make this big again so you can actually see. We have this small puzzle that we implemented. So we have to push this block to the side. We can push this block to the side, move this up, and then we can get another shield. And that basically just refills the armor bar of the current shield if we have it. And now there's actually a bug, I think. So now we have two shields, so the damage is being reduced twice, which is not what's supposed to happen. And then if we die, we have this "we died" pop up here. We haven't done anything visually yet in terms of what happens when we die. And then if, well, okay, now we can take any damage. I guess when we can actually restart and check this out. I think the shield is being destroyed when we lose all health of the shield. But I think that's pretty much everything that we have implemented so far. And the last one, fatal, and now the shield is being dropped again. We also have different animations for when we carry a shield or when we don't. And at the moment it looks like there's a little bug. So this is actually when I walk down, actually the animation is being played that we have a shield, even though we don't have it anymore. Oh, and there's the end of the level, but we can't enter it yet. So basically there's a slight change to the animation when we have a shield in that one of the arms basically just stays up front, holding the shield kind of, and we can fix that. All right. And I think that's it. We can look a little bit in how we structured that project. So this is our base scene here, and as you can see, it's basically just the main character, the UI elements, they're here in the canvas element, and then we have a room manager. And the room manager is responsible for loading the different rooms, and everything else is basically in the character. So you can hear the character is quite complex. We have a character script. We have a movement script, keyboard and gamepad control. We also have touch control. Interesting. I forgot about that. We have a movement view, and the view, in terms of how it's structured, the view makes sure that the right animation is playing. We have the character interaction model, interacting with shields, with the chest, stuff like that. We have an inventory model, and so we can, I think the inventory model right now is just the rupees, but it can be much more. We can check the code out later. We have a movement advanced model. So basically we can, this is handling push stuff. And I think, let's look at the code, what the movement advanced model is doing. Update pushing was moving pushable objects. Okay, so the advanced model is basically there. I guess I separated the movement model and the movement advanced model, because the movement model is basically just the basic movement, like move and then play the right animation. And some enemies may be able to do that as well, so we can use that component and reuse that for the enemies. But the pushable stuff is very specific, and I guess we could rename that a little bit to make to address it. So that's the pushable stuff here, but it's just semantics. Then we have an interaction view. I guess that's basically just, yeah, if we're carrying a shield or not, and that's switching the model. I guess since this is actually correct, I guess the bug may be just in the animator. We have to see if the state tree is not set up properly. We have a health model. How much health do we have? Is also responsible for the armor. Yes. Oh, you can see here, that's how the bug got introduced. I guess when we pick up another shield, we can have multiple armor models. I guess I wanted to have this so we can have a shield, a helmet, and different ones. But it looks like at the moment, if we get a new shield, the old one is not destroyed. So we can fix that later. And so let's check out the inventory. So the inventory can have an item type, get item count, add item. So very simple dictionary basically of items that we possess, and then we can use that in different scripts. Let's see what different item types we have. We have a sword, a shield, small and big keys, and the rupees. Okay, so so even the sword and shield are also part of this inventory model when we pick them up. Okay, so that's the main character. Let's look at some prefabs. And in the prefabs we have enemies. This is the bat. The bat has also the base movement model. It has a bat control, which is basically just the enemy AI, and that's it. What's the push strength? On hit character. Oh, okay, so the push strength, I thought it was to do with pushing character, and it wasn't supposed to be here. But that's basically when we hit the enemy, how far does it push us back, and for how long. Okay, interesting. So that's the enemy that we have. We have environment objects, and I guess we found all of them. the damage number that pops up, and sword shield and rupee items. Oh, and then we have the 3 corners. Well, that's interesting. So the 3 corners is basically, when you set it up, in our overworld scene, every scene has this. And then we have 3 doors, quote unquote. And the 3 doors can be basically deleted, I guess. Oh, okay. That's an interesting way to do this. So at the moment, basically, we have these 3 doors, and they will get created all the time, and then they have a 70% chance of being destroyed, leaving us with a door. So that's basically how we generate a random path. So the path generation right now in the environment doesn't do anything. It's basically just random. If there's anything happen, if there's a path or not. So that's something that we can do later on, make more interesting generated levels and not just random ones. Let's see what kind of sprites we have that we can maybe start with use. At the moment we have the okay, I guess we used everything. We used all the sprites that we have in here. So we do have a bunch more. I will check out what kind of assets we still have, and then see what we can do today. But that's basically the overview of the project. So we are all caught up now where we left off, and now we can continue with a new lesson. So I looked through some of the assets that we have, and for today I want to start off with an easy one. So we have this nice bomb pickup here. So I want to basically create the item type of the bomb. There's a pickup visuals, so we can move over it and collect it. And then we have a small animation for when we place the bomb, so the fire is sparkling a little bit. And then also we have an animation for the effect, for the actual explosion. And you can see that here. So that's basically what we're going to do. Have the bomb item so we can collect it. Once we have it, we want to be able to place a bomb, and then after a while it explodes, and then maybe we can destroy stones with it, which we aren't able to do with any other means. So first of all, let's look at the rupee item. Actually, so I guess it's in prefabs and items. Then go to Ruby. And if we just position that there and press play, it immediately drops, it has this animation. And that animation is part of the Ruby itself. So I don't think we need that for the bomb. Maybe for now we just pop up the bomb and we can see if we input an animation there later. So yeah, let's create the bomb item type. And as you can see, we actually don't have to code anything. We actually have a component that does what we want you to do. And that's the collectible item component. It has an item type, so we can say what it is and how many of those items we have. So there isn't a bomb item yet, so let's start with that. So we double click the collectible item. So we can see we have the item type here. So let's go over to the item type, and we simply add the bomb item here. So now we can change the rupee prefab here, and basically what we change is the sprite. Let's go to the item sprites and then the bomb pickup. So we put that in here. And then we also want to change, maybe change the collider a little bit so it fits the sprite better when we pick it up. So let's change the collider here, a little bit bigger than the actual item, so we can pick, well, let's not make it bigger, let's make it actually a little bit smaller. And also in this case we don't actually need a box collider. What we can do is a sphere collider. It's probably or circle collider rather, since we're in 2D. So let's add a circle collider, and The previous collider was a trigger because when we move to it, we trigger that we can pick it up. So we have to click that this is a trigger, and then we can change the radius, make it a little bit smaller, so it fits the bomb a little better. I guess that can work. We can offset it a little bit, like this. There you go. And now we have our bomb pickup. We simply have to specify the item type still. So this is actually a bomb. And then we rename this to bomb, let's say pickup. And then in the prefabs, simply drag the bomb pickups into the prefabs and into the prefabs folder, and it automatically creates a bomb pickup prefab for us. So when we press play now, then we still have, oh, we have the animation in there still. So let's go over here. We don't need the animator actually, we just simply remove the animator completely. So we press play, and then we have the bomb pickup. And when we walk towards it and over it, it actually just gets removed. We picked it up, and then let's see if we can, if we have something to know what types of items we have already. So the inventory model doesn't tell us anything in the inspector, which is actually something that we can change. I mean, that's an interesting, something interesting as well. Let's actually do that. I want to be able to create a custom inspector here, so that in the inventory model, it actually, while at runtime, it actually lists what types of items and how many we already have. So it's easier to debug in the edit view. Okay, so first of all, what we want to do is we want to create a custom inspector for the character inventory model. For that, we create a special folder, or actually there is already a special folder. We created an item database creator before. So now let's create a custom inspector. Let's create a subfolder here for items. And then, well, it's not actually an item, right? We just want to have one for the inventory. Well, nope, we remove the folder again. So we want to create a custom inspector for the character inventory model. So let's go into the editor folder, right click, create a new C# script, and we call it character inventory model editor. And since this is a custom inspector, so something that changes the Unity editor, it has to be in this special editor folder. Because all the scripts that are in an editor folder, there can be subfolders in there as well. But at some point there has to be an editor folder named editor, and then this allows us to use the editor namespace in the script. So our character inventory model editor right now is a mono behavior, and there's nothing special here yet. But since this is an editor folder, we can type using Unity editor, and that gives us access to a lot more features, so we can design the custom inspector. This actually is not a mono behavior, but this is an editor. And then to say that this belongs to the character inventory model, we can add an attribute here, and the attribute is called custom editor. And then it needs the type, so type of character inventory model. So now this editor here is being found by Unity as a custom editor for the character inventory model component. So whenever the component is being drawn in the inspector, this editor draws, this script basically allows us to create a custom editor there and draw stuff whatever we want. So the editor is being drawn in the onGUI function. So that is, not onSwingGUI, just onGUI. So that is Unity's drawing function that is being called. And just for now, to show you what this does, we create a GUI layout. Just create a label, editor. the GUI layout is actually a nice way to it makes it easy for us to simply put editor components below each other, and then Unity takes care of the layouting. So let's go over to Unity again, go to the character, and now if we go to our inventory model, nothing has happened yet. What did we do wrong? Ah, okay. Okay, so it's not on GUI actually, it's on inspector GUI. And then we have to override this. Let's see here. Override on inspector GUI. That's actually public, I see. Okay, so public override void on inspector GUI. Let's see if this works now. So if it does, there you go. So instead of just like before, like just showing the script or the parameters, well, the script doesn't have any parameters. It now shows our hi editor prompt. Well, we actually do want to show this script stuff. We want to make it look kind of like a regular inspector and then add our stuff. So to do that, the first function we actually call is draw default inspector. So now first Unity's default inspector is being drawn and then our stuff is being done. So you can see here it changes. The script, just like before, is now being shown, and then our hi editor is being drawn. So for this, actually we only want to draw the items while we're in runtime. So we can simply make an if here, if application is playing. Then we want to draw the items in this inspector. In a custom inspector, we can actually access the component that we are inspecting through the target property. The target property is not typecast yet. It's a base object. So let's do that first. Our target is of type character inventory model, and actually we can make this class variable. So mTarget, that's how I do this usually, and then we can simply cast this inventory model, cast the target variable, cast this, give this the proper type, and then save this in the mTarget. So now we can use mTarget instead of target, and we immediately have the right type of the component. Okay, so our character inventory model has a get item count of different item types. And in the type enum, we can iterate over the items that we have. So in order to do that, we need to know all the values in that enum. And since we structured the enum in such a way so that it starts at different integers, we can't actually just enumerate all the items. We have to know the actual names. So let's get the different values of that enum. So item type values, and from the that's actually using system. In the enum construct, we have the function get values, and then we need to know which type of item type. So we get all the values of that, and then we need to cast this to an item type array. And now we can iterate over all the values. So for each, oh, we don't need a for each. Well, in Unity, actually, I'm not quite sure if that's still the case, but some time ago, for each always generated some garbage in Unity. So I actually got used to simply using for and never using for each here. So for int I is equal to 0, I smaller than item type values length. And let's print them for now, see if it works. Debug log item type values I. And then in the console here, it should do something, but it's not doing anything. All right, let's do it properly. So GUI layout label. Then we simply want cast this to string. Oh, right. I made it such a way so it's only at runtime. So let's press play here, and then you see all the items that we have. But actually we want to have the item counts as well. And I guess it's much simpler if we simply draw the ones that have at least one item in them. So we don't draw the whole list, but only the actual inventory that we have. So instead of label, we can actually use the editor GUI layout, and we use a label field. And the label field allows us to give us basically a headline and then a value, and they're ordered in the right way. We have a label, label 1 and label 2. So item type values, and then for this we want to get the item count, which we get through the target get item count of this type. So our character inventory model has this method get item count, and it simply gets the parameter, the item type parameter, and then returns how many items we have. And if the item count is bigger than 0, then we want to draw the label field with the name of the item as the first label, and then the amount as the second label. Close this bracket. And now when we press play, at the moment we don't have anything in our inventory, but if I go over to the sword and pick it up, you can see actually the sword appeared here, and now we have one sword. And if we go over to the bomb, now we have one bomb in here. And yeah, and this is how you create an editor script. I mean, this is a very basic editor script. We will create many more later on, make them way more advanced. I actually like editor scripts a lot. I write so many because I think they allow you to be way more productive, right? If you have the right tools for your game to design your game, you are much more productive and you are able to make a much better game. So being able to create editor scripts is really, really useful. All right. So now that we're able to pick up the bomb, we want to be able to drop it and position it somewhere and make it explode. So let's create the bomb prefab, that the active prefab, not the one the pickup prefab that you can pick up, but the one that we position into the scene and that explodes. And let's create that behavior. So for this, we need a completely new item type, or not an item type, but a completely new setup. Let's see if we have some items that we can use. I guess we can start off using, I don't know, the stone. I think the stone is not doing anything. Yeah. So let's drag a stone in here, and we want to change this into the bomb. So we rename it as a bomb. We change the visuals. Sprites, items, the bomb. And first of all, actually, we want to have the different images of the bomb as separate sprites. So let's select our sprite editor. This is actually, so the sprite mode right now is set to single. We set this to multiple. And then in the sprite editor, we actually create a grid. Let's say by cell count, and then we have columns 3 and 2 rows, and we slice it. So now we have 6 different sprites that we can use for an animation. And if we drag this into a scene, we select all of them, drag this into a scene, Unity actually creates the animation for us automatically. So we simply call this the bomb animation. And when we press play, it's hiding, but you can see here the bomb is actually sparkling a little bit. Okay. So let's put this as the new visuals. Or rather, let's put it as a child of the visuals. So we remove the old sprite renderer for the stone. We center this. And then we change the collider a little bit. I want to keep it as a box collider, so because the game is kind of laid out in the grid style, like 2D grid. So I want to be able to. I don't want to be able to slide down the bomb, but basically stop from any of the 4 directions when I touch the bomb. So I keep it as a box collider, but I make it a little bit smaller so it fits the outline better. And then right now we have to be a little bit careful because the prefab right now is still the stone prefab. So if we apply this, basically the stone prefab gets destroyed. So we want to create a new prefab in our items folder, prefab items, and then we drag the bomb in here as well. So now we have the bomb pickup and we have the bomb prefab in here. Okay, well, this is still, let's make this a little bit nicer, a little bit more centric. Okay. So next we want to create the explosion animation. In the sprite sheet in effects, we have the bomb explosion sprite sheet, and we want to create different sprites from that as well. So let's slice this again, grid by cell count, 4 and 4. And now we have, what is it, 12, 13 different frames of animation that we can use. Let's see how that looks if we simply drag this into the scene. So create the bomb explosion. Bomb explosion. Press play. Well, we don't see anything in play mode because it's below the other sprites. But there you go. That is the sprite animation, the bomb sprite animation that we want to play. So you can see here the center is kind of here in the center of the animation, and then you have this nice little smoke cloud going up there. So we want to make sure that that's positioned correctly at the center of the bomb, of course. And also, when we drop the bomb, we want to make sure that the animation is playing above the bomb, so we so it doesn't look weird. So the bomb explosion actually gets its own game object. So let's create a new game object. I just press Control Shift N for new game object. You can also go to the menu here, create empty game object. We call this bomb explosion. Then we have a visuals child as always, and then the bomb explosion as a child of that. So let's see here. So the bomb explosion is actually pretty much in the center of explosion, which is great. And now we want to change the sorting order here. And we put this on the FX layer. So this way it's always on top. So we just put this prefabs into the effects folder. This bomb explosion prefab we created in the effects folder. Okay, so the bomb needs a new script so we can define its behavior. So do we have in the scripts folder, we have an objects. And let's create a new items subfolder in the objects folder. And then create a bomb script. So we attach the bomb script to the root object. And then apply that prefab again. Okay, so basically what we need here is time. How long should the bomb be visible before it explodes? Public float time till explosion. And then we need a reference to our explosion prefab. Okay. To measure the time till explosion, we save the time that the bomb was created. Creation time. So in the start method, we simply save the current time step. And then we can calculate how much time has elapsed and compare that to our time till explosion value. So the elapsed time is the current time minus the creation time. And that gives us the elapsed time. And now we can check if the elapsed time is bigger or equal to the time till explosion. Is till correct here? Let's call it, so I refactor this and then time until explosion. Let's make this proper grammar here. If the elapsed time is bigger than the time until explosion, we actually want to destroy this game object, the bomb game object. And we also want to instantiate the explosion prefab. And we want to make sure that the position is at the same position as the bomb was before. And then the rotation is actually doesn't matter. So we can use the identity rotation here. And that's actually the bomb script. So let's go over to Unity. Go to the bomb, we need to set it up. So let's say like maybe 3 seconds until explosion. And then we get the effects, prefab, bomb explosion. And in the bomb explosion, we actually want to make sure that it's only, so let's go into the animation here. Open the animation with Control-6, I open the animation window. If we press play, we can see the animation playing. But actually, we want to have one more frame where the animation is gone. So basically, at this frame, we want to make sure there's nothing there anymore. And also, we only want this animation to play once. So we have changed this animation. We go to the bomb explosion animator. So open the animator through window and then animator. And here, let's see. So in the bomb explosion animation clip, we actually say we don't want to have a loop time. So it's not looping. Okay, so when we press play, we still have our bomb set up here. And after 3 seconds, it should explode. Let's see. There you go. Nice. Okay, so that's our bomb item that we need to create when we place a bomb. So that's the next step. Actually have a button where we can place bombs when we pick them up. So I think for now, let's go into the character and see. So first of all, we go into the keyboard control. We have the update direction, update attack. I guess since E is using something, I guess we can use Q for now. So in the base control, we actually defined all the actions that we can do. So we have on action pressed, on attack pressed. Let's create a new one. Protected void on bomb place. No, on place bomb pressed. And then is it in the movement? No, I forget. Let's see. What is the attack? On attack pressed is in the movement model. I mean, attacking in the movement model doesn't seem quite right. Or rather pressing something. We have an interaction model. I think we can put this in the interaction model. Oh no, that's for like interacting with objects. That's also not something that we do. Maybe we create a new model. So we have a movement model, we have an interaction model, maybe an action model, like character action model. I think that's a good. So we have the interaction model, and we have a new model, the character action model. So in the character, add the character action model. And the character action model has an action called place bomb. Also, okay, and then we have a base character class that basically setups all the references to the different models. So this way we only need a reference to the character model and then get all the different models from that. So public character action model. Character action. So we can set this up. And then in our character base control, well, we can actually refactor all of this because we have references to this. So let's get a reference to the character. And this way we have references to all the different models. And we don't have to call get component as many times. Character. Oh, that's it. Does the character have the views as well? So that it has the movement view. So we actually don't need all of these. So let's refactor. We remove these. And then instead of having references to them, we check if we go to character movement. Movement model. Movement view. And here we have the character interaction model. And then for the on place bomb press, we have if character action is 0, is null, don't want to do anything. Otherwise, we want to call the place bomb action. Okay, so in keyboard control, we set up update place bomb. Well, let's just call it update actions. Oh, we already have it. Update action. Let's make it plural. Update actions. And then on E we have the on action press, and on Q we have the on place bomb press. Okay, so now we press Q, we call the on place bomb press, and then in the on place bomb press we go to the action model and we call place bomb. And here we want to check. So first of all, we need a reference to the bomb prefab that we can position. And then we also need a reference to our character. And we set this up in awake. And then through the character, we can get the inventory, get the item count of bombs, and if it's smaller or equal to 0, then we don't want to place a bomb. Or other way around, if it's bigger than 0, we do want to place a bomb. And for that we simply call instantiate the bomb prefab. For now, let's use our own position and then no rotation. Okay. Go over to Unity. There is an error. So in the touch control, we don't have. Okay, we need to refactor the touch control and the mouse controls and the gamepad control as well. So character interaction model, and then gamepad control. I'm sure there's no. Okay. I think the touch control is cheated a little bit. That's not how we were supposed to do that, but that's fine. We don't care about the touch model for now. Alright, so now we can set up our bomb prefab, the one that we actually want to drop when we press the item. So we go to prefabs, items, and then set up this reference here. And now, let's actually maximize this. Let's see if this works. So we can, when I press Q, nothing is happening. But when I pick this bomb up, and I do have a bomb now in my inventory, and now I press Q, still nothing is happening. But I also have a null reference exception. So the action model has an error. Oh, well, we need an equal sign here, of course. Character, get component character, and then for this... Okay, and then when I press Q, actually the bomb gets created, but it's below this environment here. So one thing that I didn't show you before, actually, when we press E in a bush, we can actually pick it up and then throw it as well. So let's place a bomb over here, and the bomb actually pushes us to the side. Maybe do we want that? I'm actually not quite sure. Maybe we can remove the the collision, maybe. So we go to the bomb prefab. That's for now. Let's just disable the collision for now. The other thing that we need to do, we need to actually remove an item when we use a bomb. Otherwise, we can just pick up one bomb and then just use it over and over again. So in the action, so when we instantiate a bomb, we actually want to go to character, inventory, add item, but we actually don't want to add, we want to remove one item. So we add -1, so we count down again. So let's go over here, pick this up, move outside for a moment, press Q. And then if I press Q again, nothing's happening. Cool. There's still many more errors. Why are there errors? In which object? Let's minimize this. Let's see which object actually has those errors. Oh, the bat. The bat doesn't have a character component yet. Let's see. Character. Prefabs. Enemies. Bat. So add the character component here. Maybe that's not the best way to do it. I have to think about that a little bit. Let's see, when press play. Okay, now we don't have any errors anymore. Okay. We have to see if that's actually what we want, because now we have a bunch of references that we don't need to set up, and I'm not quite sure if that's the best way, but that's fine. For now, it works. The other thing that we need to fix is that the sorting order of this environment item object, the shrine. So the shrine is actually on the ground objects, which is below characters, and then we have high objects. So where do we want to position items? I guess items is below the character. Let's create a new sorting layer for that. We go to layers, we want to edit the layers, and then we have a new items layer. And I guess it's below the characters. And then we actually set So let's get a bomb in here. Go to the visuals and then set this up to the sorting layer items. So now when we go to when we place a bomb on this shrine, it should show up as well. Yeah, there you go. Cool. And I guess that can be it for now. We created a new pickup type, the bomb. We were able to pick it up and then create a new action so we can place the bomb and make it explode. And I guess next week we can start using the bomb, like make rocks like these disappear with the bomb, which allows us to create puzzles. So we have blocking pathways with rocks like these, and then when you pick up a bomb somewhere, you are allowed to you can pass through them. So that creates some interesting gameplay. So the user has to see what types when they use the bomb or if they want to save it up. And I guess we can also include an item counter in the inventory up here, so we know how many bombs we have. But yeah, I guess we can leave that for the next time. So I hope you like this episode of Let's Code Games. And if you want to know how to do a specific thing, let me know. We can. The path of this project is not set yet, so we can decide where we want to go ourselves. Let me know what you want to see so we can make a game together and I can actually show you the stuff that you want to see. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.